afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for sharing part of your very busy Wednesday with us. We do appreciate that. I'm going to introduce both of our speakers, and then I'll turn the floor over to them, and they're really going to let us know what's going on with that half penny sales tax, and also maybe how we might engage and how it's being spent. So our first speaker is going to be Elizabeth Andersen. She's former Duval County Public Schools educator, current small business owner, mental health care counselor, and a wife and mother. Raised in Arlington, she attended Arlington Heights Elementary School, Arlington Middle School, and Terry Parker High School. She obtained her Bachelor of Arts in English with a concentration in psychology from the University of Florida. After graduation, in search of meaningful and fulfilling career path, she decided to become an educator. She taught in Alachua County for 1 year, but ultimately found her future here at home in Jacksonville. She continued her teaching career in Duval County, teaching English at both Terry Parker High School and Edward White High School. There she served as lead teacher and had the opportunity to participate in curriculum writing and development. As a result, she had a clear understanding of the rigorous academic demands on both teachers and students. And she currently serves as a Duval County Chair Board. So welcome, Chairwoman Andersen. And joining us also will be Hank Rogers. Hank Rogers graduated from University of North Florida, where he received his Bachelor of Arts in Political Science. He went on to further his education at Troy University, attaining his master's in public administration. He worked for the Florida House of Representatives for nearly 10 years. He resigned his position to focus more on volunteering and mentoring. He currently works with the I'm a Star Foundation Incorporated, and in addition, he is a guardian ad litem, fighting for kids in the foster care system that have no voice, all while serving on various boards and committees, including the Jacksonville branch NAACP. Mr. Rogers is currently serving as a member of the Citizen Oversight Committee. So welcome to you both. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Ms. Andersen.
Okay, I got unmuted. Thank you so much, Linnell. I really appreciate it. And I do want to share that the Oversight Committee has elected Mr. Rogers as the chair of their committee. So thank you for being here with us, Mr. Rogers. I am going to share my screen to go through some slides that I have presented. And now when I heard from the league, they gave me a list of topics that they thought you all would be interested in. So we're going to go over the referendum and the master facilities plan, the oversight committee and how charter schools will fit into that, or how they might fit into that, safety and security compliance, the mental health plan, which will include bullying, and also some recent legislative issues that I think will be important for everyone to keep an eye on as we move through this legislative session. So Mr. Rogers, feel free to hop in, especially as it relates to the Oversight Committee and how that's going to work. But he's also available, of course, to answer questions when we wrap up this brief presentation. Let me get over here to share my screen in the right spot. Okay, can everybody see? Got a thumbs up here? All right. So this morning, I want to start with just a quick overview of Duval County Public Schools. For those of you that may be less familiar with where we are currently as a school system, we've come a long way in the last 10 years. We are a B, but we are like a B++. We are less than a half of a point away from being an A-rated school district, which is quite the accomplishment for Duval County, but also really a great accomplishment for any of our large urban school districts. Duval County is the 6th largest school district in the state of Florida. Just recently, we reached our highest graduation rate ever at 90.2%. This is a historic high for us. The superintendent would remind you all that this is a COVID graduation rate. And so we did not have any testing last school year. So students that graduated were exempt from some of those testing requirements. And so the percentage may have looked just a little bit different, but still we anticipate would have been a record high for us. And one of the things that I think is most powerful about our graduation rate is how we've been able to close the gap, the achievement gap among our subgroups. So this past year, Duval County actually had the highest graduation rate for students with disabilities, and our white students and students of color are closer than they've ever been as far as those graduation rates go. So we're excited to see how things shape up as we wrap up this school year in a few months. We are also the second largest employer in Duval County, second only to the military, with over 13,000 employees in the district. Our average teacher salary is $51,400, but we've just been able to raise that starting teacher salary to $45,891. Now, I know that there's been a lot of discussion in the media about getting teacher salaries to $47,500, and the funding that the state legislature provided for us wasn't able to get us quite to $47,500. But there is conversation about continuing to boost that number for school districts this legislative session. So maybe we'll be able to get there. What's important for us as a board and the conversations we're having is that not only are we able to raise that base salary for beginning teachers, but really that all of our teachers are valued in how much they're being paid, and there's an equitable distribution of salary increase for our veteran teachers as well. We have a very diverse school district with over 200 schools, including comprehensive public or traditional public schools, charter schools, center schools, as well as a virtual school. And we have over 127,000 students that we serve. So moving on to the half penny and the master facilities plan. When the superintendent came in, there were several priorities that she presented to the board that really motivated us to pursue the half penny sales tax referendum. And these are those priorities. So a facilities condition index was underway when she came to the district, and that revealed this $1 billion backlog of deferred maintenance. And it was clear that due to the funding cuts that happened really in 2007, 2008, from the legislature related to capital funds and the amount of millage we were able to collect from our local property taxes, that there was just a gap that we were not going to be able to overcome in order to meet this deferred maintenance deficit. So that was a critical piece of the conversation. This is really about, this master facilities plan is really going to be about right sizing the district. We have several schools that are under capacity that just aren't an efficient use of taxpayer resources. So enhancing our efficiency was a big part of the puzzle, and closing and consolidating some schools so that we were making the best use of taxpayer dollars. Of course, we know that there have been lots of safety and security requirements that have come from the legislature over the last several years. And so being able to enhance our school safety and security systems was a big part of the priority. And then removing portables, which are also a problem with safety, security, and efficiency. Ultimately, of course, this is all in service to student learning and making sure that our students are in high quality 21st century environments so that they are able to achieve their highest potential. So after all those conversations, the board, the district, we said, yes, let's try to pursue this half penny referendum. And we think we've got a really good case here, and that the supporters or the voters in Duval County will support us. As you know, the voters did support us at an overwhelming percentage of 67% passing rate for the half penny referendum. And so we are excited to be getting to work on this master facilities plan at this point in time. One of the things that we knew was going to be critical for the community, the superintendent has done this before and she knew it was a big part of the puzzle previously, is having an oversight committee in place. So we put in-board policy prior to the referendum even coming to the voters, prior to approval from the city council for it to come to the voters, this plan to establish an oversight committee. And now the oversight committee is really there to provide transparency and instill confidence for the taxpayer that their proceeds, their pennies, will be used in the way that we have promised that they will be used, and that we're going to deliver on the facilities plan that we've sold you, that we provided to the community on what we will do. We know that keeping those promises is really important to every area, and it's a big project, and we are excited about the improvements that this will provide for our communities. So the committee is formed. They met to get established and start some training already in January. There are 21 voting members on this committee. And they will report, they'll receive information from the district and report to the school board any findings or oversight that they have for how the funds are being used. There is a new website established just for the half penny. This is just gone live here at the end of February, and so you're welcome to visit duvalschools.org/half-penny, half-penny. There's a little welcome video from yours truly, and you can see some of the minutes and the agendas for the Oversight Committee. One of the things that is going to be really exciting about this website is we've just gone under contract with a project management firm that's got some incredible software that's going to help us track projects as we go. We'll be able to see your money in action. And it's going to create a really transparent window into this whole process over the course of the next 15 years. And so it's really unlike any other district that has a half-penny referendum in the accessibility that the taxpayers will have to this information almost in real time. So we haven't gotten any funds yet, but as soon as those come in, we'll start tracking these dashboards and you'll be able to see them on this website. I know that a big conversation is related to charter schools and the half penny. So when the school board was having discussion about the referendum, there was a lot of pushback from not only our city council members, but also our state legislators related to the amount of money that would come in and how this would be shared with our charter school partners. The district has always agreed to include charter schools. We have, I think we're at about 35 charter schools now in the district, but it was important to us that this money be spent as we have done and we have prioritized in the district based on need. You know, we had this facilities condition index plan laid out, and so it's very clear to us which schools are struggling more with their infrastructure and facilities needs, and which ones are doing a little bit better. And so we wanted to invest the money where it's really needed to be able to provide an equitable access to quality educational environment across all of Duval County. And the sticking point was really how charter schools would get that. So it was taken out of our hands when the legislature moved forward last session in writing some tax code that requires us to share the half penny referendum, not just Duval, but now all across the state of Florida. We shared capital revenue the same way other capital revenue is shared with charter schools based on a per pupil allocation. So it's a simple, how many students are enrolled in your school formula. The money comes in to us from the tax, and then we write a check and send it out to the charter schools. We were successful in getting some regulation in the way that those funds could be shared with charter schools and their eligibility requirements. And so this falls in line with the same statute that governs other capital dollars to charter schools, including PICO. So PICO dollars used to be an additional source of revenue for public schools. Now 100% of PICO goes only to charter schools, and traditional public schools do not get PICO, but they have to meet these same eligibility requirements. And so this is the list of eligibility requirements here that you see on this slide. If you want to go, or in your future spare time, if you're really interested, you can find these statutes here: 1002.33, 1011.62, and 0.61 that will go over how our charter schools can use these sales tax referendum dollars. Here's a quick visual for you. Statute 212.055 is the statute that was passed last year, requiring school districts to share referendum dollars with charter schools based on student enrollment. And these are the ways that charter schools and public schools can spend these sales tax dollars just a little bit differently. I do think it's important to note that any funding that is not used, or if a charter school were to close and there is sales tax revenue left, that would revert back to the school district. And that's here on this slide. So I'll highlight it here at the bottom of this slide. If a school's charter is not renewed or is terminated, and the school is dissolved under the provisions of law under which the school was organized, any unencumbered sales tax funds received shall revert to the sponsor. And that would be Duval County Public Schools. And again, here are the statutes. 101 3.62 is the kind of big charter school statute, if you're interested in looking more into how the accountability works for charter schools. A big piece of the puzzle was funding safety and security upgrades. We know the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act was passed in 2018, and so there were requirements that were placed upon school districts for important safety and security upgrades, including school guardians, which I'll share with you in the next slide. But here's the work that the district has done since 2018. We've spent over $8 million on improving high definition security cameras and speaker systems. We've spent over $2 million, nearly $3 million in fencing and gates. We've got new portable metal detectors. I believe that some of this was purchased with grant funds as well, and metal detectors was one of those grants that we were able to get. So that allows schools not only, during big events, they might be able to move a metal detector in, say for football games or for assemblies, but not have to have a metal detector all the time that students have to walk through. We have a new visitor badging and management system across the district, and as well as additional lighting upgrades, which we know are really important pieces to that safety and security puzzle. So the Guardian program, it was passed by law that each school must assign one or more safe school officers at each school, including charter schools. And those folks are required to be armed security personnel. In Duval County, we have school resource officers at all of our secondary schools. Because we have such rigorous standards for our our school resource officers, sometimes those positions are not always full and we have vacancies. And so we have an agreement with our local law enforcement, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, to provide police officers at our secondary schools or at our elementary schools where we do not have an armed personnel there on staff. School safety officers are our law enforcement department through Duval County Public Schools. And then we have the Guardian program. Now, the Guardian program was designed to allow teachers to be trained and armed in school buildings, but in Duval County, we passed a resolution several years ago, before my time on the board actually, that committed to not arming teachers. And so we do have guardians, but these are security, not security guards. Gosh, what is the name is slipping my mind right now. But they are personnel that are assigned to our elementary schools, and their sole job is just to be there to monitor the safety and security of the facility, to monitor the perimeter of the building, and they have some limitations. So really, if it was up to me and you were going to ask what would I like to see, if we are required to have armed personnel on school property, I'd much rather see school safety officers at our schools, because their job description is broad enough and their training is broad enough that allows them to do other programming with our children, and to act more as mentors and do more education than the role of the school guardian. So mental health funding and partnerships. This is another piece of, especially the funding puzzle, that is getting a lot of attention. And then, quite frankly, as a licensed mental health counselor myself, I'm really glad to see being highlighted and being prioritized by the state. So we have a very unique partnership here in Duval County. We are very fortunate. This is not something that other school districts have in place. And we work very closely with United Way and the Kids Hope Alliance, who match funding with us to be able to provide therapists, trained licensed counselors in every school. They rotate, they're not embedded there, but with partnerships through our community agencies around town, any student would have access to a licensed mental health or licensed clinical social worker for counseling services. Those wait lists are long. They fill up quickly. And so what's interesting is, although we have a more robust partnership and system than almost any other district in the state, we can always use more. There's still more need. And so here you can see where our funding comes from and how those partnership dollars flow in. These are the different supports and programs that we have available. You can see here what is labeled as FSS is our full service schools program. And those partnerships, that's what's funded through the partnerships with United Way and the Kids Hope Alliance. We also have other ways that we are supporting mental health, of course, through our school counselors, our school psychologists. We do a universal screening now for all 3rd, 6th, and 9th grade students in order to identify students that may be at risk, and we refer those students to services. So these are the ratios as well as the number of individuals that are available to serve students. And as I said, it's still not quite enough. Our students are really struggling with mental health, as I think a lot of adults are actually right now, because we've had such a hard year, and the circumstances and environment for our young people is different than it's ever been before in society. Specifically, I know that there was a question about what we do for bullying. So there is very, very clear statute that requires a very standardized process for addressing bullying and defines what bullying is. And so here are the statistics related to bullying. You can see that in the 2021 school year, we have our bullying statistics are significantly reduced. If you know someone that is complaining of bullying, whether that's from another student, whether that's an adult, and that's a conversation that I have with constituents as well, is, well, what happens if they feel like a teacher is bullying them? Bullying is bullying. And so you can certainly reach out. Every report must be investigated. So this is the number or the email that you can call or text, either anonymously or not, to report bullying. This is something that we take very seriously, and I think it's essential that cases are reported, because the district can't improve if we don't know. Here is our anti-bullying policy that the board has in place. This is aligned with statute. Of course, it prohibits bullying and harassment, including cyberbullying, and it includes procedures for each of these processes here, including making sure that this policy is publicized, which can be challenging. If you don't know what you're supposed to do or how to make a referral, then that's a problem. And then finally, we are looking at, I'm tracking some legislations. Senate Bill 48 is one of the biggest pieces of legislation that I think is going to be impacting schools, public schools this session. What happens, a lot of people are talking about this sort of voucher expansion. I mean, we know we've been tracking voucher programs for quite some time, but it's more than just voucher changes or expansion. What happens is they're going to combine the McKay and Gardner scholarships. They're going to combine the Florida Empowerment Scholarship, the Florida Tax Credit Scholarship, and the Hope Scholarship, which is designed specifically for bullying. Anyone that makes a bullying claim to the district is statutorily required to be informed of the Hope Scholarship. and their opportunity to leave the district to seek private school options through this scholarship. So these are going to be combined and consolidated into 2 different tracks. But what will happen is this, this bill establishes something called an education savings account. So it's not as simple as your voucher system. This is actual money that goes to the parent for them to choose how to spend it. So that could be on private school, but it could be also on other supports or resources. Currently, the Gardner Scholarship is designed to operate this way. The Gardner Scholarship is specifically for students with disabilities, and so parents can use the funds provided by this scholarship program to hire counseling services, therapeutic services for their student with disabilities. Expanding the savings account option across all the voucher systems will now mean that families that want, including homeschoolers, so a student doesn't actually have to attend any school in order to receive these dollars through an education savings account. And the parents can use the funds to purchase through a private commerce system managed by Step Up for Students, who takes a 2.5% fee, private educational options. So for example, if you needed a PE credit, you could go to the Commerce site through Step Up for Students and find an approved tennis coach. And now we can purchase tennis services. So you can go through the Commerce site, or you have to front the money up front, and then it's the cost is reimbursed. So it's a very different system. I think what now we're hearing from legislators is kind of a sweeping, oh, this is just a consolidation of voucher programs, but it's really not. It's much bigger than that. So I'm happy to answer questions on that. And then the other piece of legislation that's come up that we're going to be keeping an eye on is Senate Bill 86, which changes the way that Bright Futures will be afforded to students, that they might have to meet a certain criteria or an eligible college major in order to be eligible to receive those Bright Futures funds, which of course we know will be very limiting to our students who have really benefited from access to college education through Bright Futures for many, many years, which is primarily where our lottery money goes. Lottery goes to fund Bright Futures. So with that, I believe that is the end of my presentation. I know I've spoken for over 20 minutes now, but I'm happy to take some questions, or of course, Mr. Rogers is here to talk with you more about the Oversight Committee as well. I'm looking at the chat here. So Susan asked, what does it mean to be a B school district? Is it only based on graduation rates? No, there are a lot of components to school grades and district grades, and I don't know them all off the top of my head, but it is a very robust matrix of measurements, including gains, graduation rate, standardized testing scores for students. There's a bunch of pieces of the puzzle that go into that. It does create what I find to be a rather frustrating system because of the high stakes nature of grading and testing. It puts a lot of pressure on teachers and students. And for our struggling students, or students that come into our building from community environments that are struggling, that may come in behind, it's not really a very accurate reflection. These grades are not really a very accurate reflection of the quality education that's happening in the building. We have some really incredible, phenomenal teachers and building leaders that may be in C schools because children struggle because they're under-resourced outside of our buildings. Do I agree with allowing non-police officers to carry guns? Oh, the school guardian program. Do I agree with it? We have a really rigorous protocol. We have a full psychological assessment that they have to go through. It's a very rigorous training program. It is more rigorous than most other districts. And it is the best we can do given the statute that requires we have to have an armed person on a school campus. I would love to live in a world where we didn't have people with guns walking around our schools. Yes, I wish the state legislature had not passed that law. The Kids Hope Alliance is working on some new dashboard management systems to be able to look at assessing how well they are aligning their funds with need. And I'm excited to see that dashboard. I keep hearing that it's going to be coming out. Board member Charlotte Joyce is working closely with the Kids Hope Alliance. And I actually just met or just saw Hope Alliance. And I'll be meeting with them soon to take a look at these dashboards myself, because I think that we do need to really make sure that we are allocating these funds where we are getting really high quality service for our children. Schools can't use our sales. Charter schools can't use our sales surtax money to repay loans. What happens if they do it anyway? That is a great question. And I know, Mr. Rogers, actually, this might be a good opportunity for you to jump in and talk about the conversation that I know the Oversight Committee has had recently related to tracking charter schools with the half penny. I don't know if you have access to unmute.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So the committee will take up this issue on Wednesday, March the 17th at 1 p.m. So that we can really do a deep dive into it. So we're going to look at the reporting, how charter schools are to report, and take a look at that question. I have gotten that question via email. And so that is something that we'll be taking a look at, and I'm bringing before the committee this month. So we look forward to having those discussions and figuring out ways, what happens next, if you will, and the next steps.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. I know that the district is, or they shared with me that they might be looking at some sort of standardized form that charter schools might fill out to be able to report how they're using these funds. But if you think about what they're required in statute, they don't have to. So we can ask them to. We can say this would be really helpful for taxpayers if you were able to separate out how you're using these additional referendum taxpayer dollars, but they might not be interested in doing that. And so there's not much recourse we have if they are compliant with law. I see here still in Susan's question, yes, most recently in the budget allocation, 100% of PICO dollars were allocated to charter schools. I don't anticipate that changing. So PICO funds right now are only going to charter schools. The legislature could make a change to that. I would be surprised. Under Senate Bill 48, will the low income families, this is the big concern. There's a lot of question about how there will be oversight for the money that is provided in these like edu-debit cards to families. At this moment, there's very, very little requirement oversight. It's not even required to be spent on a certified teacher. They're not required to go to a school. We have no idea what the qualifications or the caliber of services that these families will receive using your money, the money from the public. And so it is a pretty big concern, and it's a huge change to the way that vouchers have worked. And it'll certainly make a huge impact on public schools, especially because it is open to homeschool families. And I know that there are many, many very high quality families that are committed to homeschooling their children with, you know, excellent standards and expectations. And there are some families that homeschool their students for other reasons. And so access to a pot of money that has little oversight is a concern for me. I see here from Julie, were any studies or research used to implement the mandated safety protocols and follow up as to their effectiveness? Would be nice for the legislature to use that money for mental health counselors. Oh, who owns Step Up for Students? Step Up for Students is a nonprofit organization in and of themselves. It used to be a corporate tax credit and a way to channel private dollars in for voucher systems. But we know a couple of years ago that shifted, and now public taxpayer dollars are used to fund these vouchers as well. I just see here, we might want to have Mr. Rogers speak. Mr. Rogers, if you want to share anything else about the Oversight Committee, please feel free to give an overview. And I think I may have more power. So I'm going to unmute LWV here as well.
Okay, Ms. Anderson, do you have more presentation before we ask Mr. Rogers to share his commentary on the Oversight Committee?
I don't have any further slides.
Okay.
So I'm happy to just participate how you want.
Okay, I'll ask you to wait in case we have some more questions. And Mr. Rogers, if you would like to share with us the Oversight Committee information that you feel is really pertinent for us to know about.
So I think Chair Andersen covered it well in her presentation as it relates to the governing of the Oversight Committee. As she indicated, we did meet in January with the school district for training. And then last month we did meet again to elect our leadership. And so this month we're really getting into the work of what the Oversight Committee will be doing. And on our agenda will be the charter schools and how they will be reporting, either because the way it's written, we have a little bit of oversight on that reporting. And so trying to figure out ways, as Ms. Chair Andersen indicated, what that looks like moving forward. So we look forward to having a robust conversation about that this month. As Chair Andersen also indicated, you know, it's a very diverse group of individuals and that I'm honored to serve with. Our Vice Chair is Mr. Nathan Day, who serves as well. And so the real works really begin this month. We're looking at having, I think, funds based on what the district is reporting coming either at the end of this month or really starting in April, and we'll start seeing funds come in and start looking at how we report that, not only to the superintendent and to the board, but also to you as the public, and making sure you are aware of how every dime is spent in a transparent way. And the district has done a good job of creating a website so far. So you can go right on the website and see what's coming in and what's going out, and we'll be reporting that as well and taking a deep dive and look into every dollar. So with that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Mr. Rogers, this is Linnell. Can you, one, give the website again, especially where your meetings are announced? And also, can the public attend these meetings? And if so, is there virtual options for those who may have COVID concerns?
Absolutely. So, and is DCP, duvalschools.org/half-penny, I believe is the website, is brand new website that was launched. So it's duvalschools.org /have-penny. It is open to the public. The public are, as always, welcome to attend those meetings, offer public comment. You, of course, as they do at the school board meetings, get 3 minutes to come before the committee, expressing your concerns or questions to the committee. Unfortunately, at this time, we do not have a virtual option at this time, and that's something that we can discuss. But at this time, we do not have an option for the public to view or participate via the means of virtual at this time.
Okay, thank you. This question actually comes from our education chair, Susan. She said she had written the state attorney asking if the charter school uses our sales surtax money on something that isn't an allowable use. Will the charter school board be criminally prosecuted? She has not yet received an answer on that and wanted to know if you could weigh in on that, Mr. Rogers.
So I did receive that. I did look at that. I'm not going to weigh in on it at this time. But I am going to take that before the committee and see how we move forward with that, and see what next steps are in place for that. So again, we're going to take that before the committee for a position.
Okay. Our treasurer, Sandy, had wanted to know if the task, let me see this right, are the task force meetings on Zoom? And maybe she meant the committee meetings that you just referenced.
Correct. So the committee meetings are not on Zoom. Again, that's that virtual option that unfortunately we don't have. So we do meet in person, socially distanced. Again, at the Schultz Center that the community can participate in. I'm not sure, and it's a question that I will definitely ask, if we can have virtual meetings or do it virtually, where the community can see the work that's being done by the committee. So it's something that I will go back and ask.
Okay, and Chairwoman Andersen, she did put that website in the chat for anybody who would like to take a look at that. So do you think there's value, Mr. Rogers, in the public showing up to the committee meetings and having input?
Absolutely, absolutely. Anytime, in my humble opinion, anytime your tax dollars are being used, you have a voice, and your voice should be heard. And so coming and sharing your concerns or your questions, your thoughts on it, we welcome that. We welcome that. I was actually at an event this weekend, and someone said, "You serve on that committee," and said, raised their concerns, and I shared with them, come before the committee and raise those concerns so that we can take a look at it as a whole. And so I do think there's much value in having the community participate, the public participate in the process.
Okay, and Mr. Rogers, I apologize. This was a continuation from our education chair's first question. Do the charter schools understand that they can't use our sales surtax money on loan repayments?
That's an interesting, and Chairwoman Andersen, you may want to jump in here. That's an interesting question. I'm not sure. Based on statute, I'm not sure if the statute speaks to that. So again, that's something that we'll take a look at, but I'm not sure if they are aware or what communication has been shared with our charter schools. So I'm gonna see if Chairwoman Andersen probably can jump in and shed a little bit more light than I can on that.
Sure. So I went ahead and I put a link to statute 1013.62 in the chat here. And I do believe that it does allow charter schools to use capital revenue. I think it's paragraph 6. Let me, maybe paragraph 4 here. So lease purchase, or lease of permanent or relocatable school facilities. So purchase, lease purchase, or lease. Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything that says that they cannot use funds to repay loans through purchase or lease purchase. They cannot use it to bond.
And Chairwoman Anderson, can I ask you to explain the difference between the loan repayment and bond when you use that phrase?
Yeah, so here's the loophole. Private companies, developers, bond, or as recently happened, the city bonds, and turns over dollars, and then the charter school can repay through lease or lease purchase to the private entity. So that's kind of the loophole.
Okay, I'm just going through the chat one last time to see if there are any questions that we may have missed. No, there are not. So with that, I will say thank you both for taking time out of your busy day to join us. So often the voters show up to vote, to have their voices heard on a topic, and things pass. And then we don't always know what actually became of the reported. So this is very important because these tax dollars, I think people were very clear about what they thought were going to become of these tax dollars, and that may not be happening. So we just really do encourage people to come out to the Oversight Committee meetings and to communicate with their school board members, the school board members. So people need to be heard. So we appreciate you both joining us today. And Mr. Rogers, congratulations on your position as chair of the committee. So thank you very much for joining us today. And with that,
if I make
yes.
one more just real quick statement, because it's been a little bit confusing, I think, I'm sure that people have heard that the school board is looking at going through this renaming process for many schools. And that was a process that was initiated back in, I think it was July. So now we're having all these community meetings, and there is some misinformation that's going around about the costs associated with renaming. First of all, the communities haven't given their stakeholder feedback. So I don't know what will happen. Their input and their feedback for their community and their school is going to be really important. But the board has committed that if we decide to move forward with renaming schools, that the funding for changing those school names would not come from this half penny. So we are working with the Jacksonville Public Education Fund, has a private donation set up for renaming, and we also have other capital revenue resources, but we won't be using the half penny if we move forward with school renaming. And so I do think it's important for as many folks to be aware of that, because this seems to be just misinformation that's out there.
And thank you for that. I'm sorry, Mr. Rogers, you had something?
No, I would just encourage everyone to take a look at the plan that's put before, so everyone knows where their dollars is being spent, and definitely encourage you. We got emails, so continue to email us with questions or concerns that you may have, so that we can take a look at those questions as well. So we want the community to be as engaged in this process as possible. And we want to make sure that is a transparent process and the community feels good at the end of the day about what their dollars is being spent on. So we're going to be very intentional about that, and making sure that at the end of the day, you know exactly what you voted for. So every school district, every school is getting something. And so we want to make sure when you go on that website, if you want to look at a particular school, you see exactly what dollars, what project has been spent on that school. And if you have any questions or concerns, definitely reach out to any one of the 21 members of the committee and voice your concerns, so that we can properly address those and get those before the school board and the superintendent. Thank you so much.
And thank you for bringing that up. There's a schools tracker that allows you to see which schools' names are being entertained for a change. There's also the list of dates and times and locations where you can come and do public comment. I've been to a couple. It's very spirited. As you can imagine, people are very passionate about the name of a school. And just like when we are named by our parents at our birth, a lot of thought goes into school names. So if you have a thought about that, please consider showing up to one of the speaking engagements. Just a couple of last minute announcements. One, we ask all of our league members, as always, to remain engaged. We all know that the Florida legislative session started yesterday. please keep an eye on the Florida channel. Also, if you've not signed up for Capital Alerts, please do that. And when you do get an action alert from our state president, Patty, please act on that. Never assume that someone else is calling and emailing. Please make sure that you are doing that on behalf of the league and on behalf of our community. Also, just a reminder, April 8th, we are going to have our virtual lobby days this year. We will not be traveling to Tallahassee to meet with the legislators. We'll be doing it virtually. So that link is now live on our state website. And it will also be provided on our website, our Facebook page, as well as we'll get that out to our members via email. Also, our state convention this year is going to be virtual. That's going to be on June 4th and 5th. So there'll be an announcement coming for that for anyone who wants to attend. Again, it'll be virtual. We're trying to be as safe as we can be. At the same time, we want to educate and motivate our members to advocate on behalf of their communities. And lastly, our June annual meeting will be coming up. We'll also be holding elections. If you are interested in becoming a board member or getting involved in one of our committees, please reach out to myself at our league email address, or reach out to any board member and we can get you connected with information about the positions coming open. And having said that, it's a gorgeous day outside. The rain has subsided. So please get out, get some sun on your head, as my mother would say. Enjoy this beautiful weather, because the rain will come back, or the heat, one or the other. It's Florida. But I just thank you for joining us this afternoon, and please follow up and engage with your school board members. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for having us.